We begin in Venezuela, where Nicolas Maduro has narrowly won Sunday's election to choose a replacement for Chávez, who died of cancer last month. Maduro had served as vice president and foreign minister under President Hugo Chávez. The National Electoral Council said Maduro received 50.7% of the vote. Enrique Capriles Radonsky won 49.1%. The vote was far closer than one in October, when Chávez beat Capriles by 11 percentage points. In his victory speech, Maduro, a former bus driver, said a new era for the Bolivarian revolution is beginning.
Long live Chávez. Long live Chávez. Long live Chávez. Until victory forever, let's go to the streets to defend this victory, to defend the triumph, in peace and in order to celebrate with the people, and to remember that we have complied with the commander. Chávez, I swear to you, we have fulfilled your promise for independence and a socialist fatherland.
Sunday's vote was the closest presidential election in Venezuela since 1968. Capriles, the governor of the state of Miranda, is refusing to concede defeat and has demanded a recount.
I want to say to the government's candidate, the loser today is you, and I say that firmly. You are the loser, you and your government. I say that with firmness and with all the compromise and transparency. We will not recognize the results until each and every Venezuelan vote, one by one, has been counted. We demand here that the National Electoral Council open all of the boxes and that each Venezuelan vote be counted.
On Sunday, Venezuelan voters talked about the significance of the election to pick a successor to the late Hugo Chávez.
Without a doubt, this is an act that will leave a relevant mark in our history, but it is forming the start of another era, an era of 14 years before, and we'll have to wait and see what will happen in the 14 years after.
I am here early in hopes of improving the situation. I am anxious to execute my right and try to implement a change to the situation that has been agitating all Venezuelans.
Now with Maduro, we also have to carry out the tasks he gives us, and, God willing, we hope this president will carry on with what the past president left behind.
To talk about the election in the state of Venezuela after the death of Chávez, we're joined by two guests. Rory Carroll is author of Comandante, Hugo Chávez's Venezuela. He was The Guardian's Latin America correspondent and was based in Caracas until last year. He's now the U.S. West Coast correspondent for The Guardian, based in Los Angeles. Mark Reisbrot joins us from Washington, D.C., an economist and co-director of the Center for Economic and Policy Research. Mark, let's begin with you. Can you talk about the significance of what took place yesterday, the election of Nicolas Maduro?
Well, I think it is, the majority at least did vote for continuity, and I think they did so mainly because there was a large increase in living standards for people over the past 14 years. If you take the point where the government got control over the oil industry, since then, because they couldn't really do anything before that, since then the poverty was reduced by 50%, extreme poverty by 70%. You had millions of people got access to free health care for the first time. Unemployment was 14.5% when Chávez took office. It was 8% last year. So big increases in employment and living standards. And I think, that's why they voted for it. I think also it's very lucky for the country that the Chávez government established this really secure electoral system. Now you can see Capriles is he's kind of playing to the part of the opposition that in every election has not wanted to accept the results. Every election since 2004, there's been a part of the opposition that just says, we don't buy it. But he's not really going to do anything, I don't think, because it's very easy to have an audit. The system they have, like Jimmy Carter called it the best in the world, and it really is quite good. I mean, they have 2 records of every vote. You push a touch screen, you have an electronic record, and then you have a receipt that goes in the ballot box, and all you have to do is compare those, and they will do that, and I'm sure it won't change the result because the margin is still large enough. It's around 275,000 votes. So it's good. It's very good for the country that they have a system like that. and we'll be able to resolve it. I think the election also has enormous significance for the region. That's why you already saw the congratulations coming in, you know, from Argentina, from Ecuador, and all of the governments, I think, will, you know, stand behind. If there's any conflict over it, they'll stand behind the government of Venezuela. And of course, on the other side is the United States. And I think that's something that your viewers and listeners should really understand, is that whenever we talk about Venezuela here in the United States, you know, there's really only two reasons you have as much news, and all of it's bad, about Venezuela. One is that Venezuela is the primary target for regime change from the United States government, has been since the coup that the U.S. was involved in 2002. You know, primary target in the world, probably with the possible exception of Iran. And secondly, it has the largest oil reserves in the world. And those two things, of course, are related. And that's going to continue to shape relations with the United States. The United States is not really going to change its policy in the foreseeable future. They'll still be trying to get rid of this government and really any target of opportunity they have among the left governments in South America. You know, you can see what happened in Paraguay last year, for example. There's a nice article in The Nation by Natalia Viana showing that the USAID supported the coup there. And you had Honduras, you know, President Zelaya was on your show saying that the U.S. was involved in that coup in 2009. So there's always going to, the U.S. stepped up funding after the coup in 2002 to Venezuela, and I think they'll continue to be active there.
Rory Carroll, you wrote Comandante, Hugo Chávez's Venezuela, your assessment of the significance of the election in Venezuela and your response to economist Mark Weisbrot.
Good morning, Amy. Good morning, Mark. I think the significance of the result was written on the faces of the people, of the ministers behind Nicolas Maduro on the balcony last night. I mean, they were extremely somber and they were shaken. I mean, this is not a good result for Nicolas Maduro or Chavismo, although they have won very, very narrowly, and it's shockingly narrow. The opinion polls and they themselves have been suggesting a sweeping double-digit victory. And the fact that they've just squeaked in is a major blow to his authority in terms of just the country nationally. It shows just how polarized the country is as a 50-50 nation now. And also, it will undermine his own authority within the ranks of Chavismo. And I think many people within the movement will wonder now whether Nicolas Maduro really is the best man to lead them, because they have been so accustomed to these huge landslides that Hugo Chavez used to win time after time. And I think the reason this time that the landslide didn't happen is really quite revealing in some ways, because this is a government that had huge advantages of incumbency. Firstly, it controls pretty much most of the money in the country. As a petro-state at a time of high oil prices, it has had huge powers of patronage, which it used lavishly to bolster its position, and happily blending party and state's resources to cement that advantage. Also, you had civil servants whom, as ever, were instructed that you will vote for the government or perhaps you won't have a job. You had the head of the armed forces telling people, either hinting or also saying so explicitly, that you will vote for the government. And so these are very strong advantages for the government. And the fact that with all of that, they still so narrowly won, basically lost 49-something% of the population, shows that a lot of Venezuelans are unhappy. And they're unhappy with insecurity, the fact that murder rates are out of control in Venezuela, especially in Caracas. They're unhappy with the fact that the economy is really quite dysfunctional, and the fact that there are shortages of many basic goods, the fact that currency controls means that it's very difficult for any businesses to do anything, and the fact that inflation is so strong means that daily life is often quite difficult for people. And Venezuelans are no different to anybody else in the sense that they just want good jobs and they want to be safe. And I think the vote that we saw was a sign that many people are not happy there.
We're going to break and come back to this discussion with Rory Carroll, author of Comandante Hugo Chávez's Venezuela, also a reporter for The Guardian, and Mark Reisbrot, who's speaking to us from D.C. Center for Economic and Policy Research is his organization, an economist. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report, back in a minute. Thanks so much for watching this report from Democracy Now!, your daily independent global news hour. We don't accept advertising or corporate funding, but rather rely on donations from viewers like you. Please make your contribution by visiting democracynow.org. We need your support today to keep bringing you this hard-hitting, in-depth reporting.